going to talk about Intro to Proportional Situations. So I'm on page 38 in my journal. So if you would add that to yours, we are going to talk about, we've talked about ratios. So now we're going to talk about how we can take those ratios and decide if something is proportional, as well as find a missing number in a comparison of two ratios, which is called a proportion. So we're going to look at first, how do we decide if something is proportional? So I'm going to give you a couple of examples. The first one deals with hamburgers and hot dogs. So it says Jade bought 3 hamburgers and 2 hot dogs, while Richard bought 9 hamburgers. I guess Richard was very, very hungry, or he has a very, very large family, and 6 hot dogs. So we want to decide if this is a proportional relationship. So if we want to know if this situation is proportional, we need to know if, when we write the ratio for Jade of hamburgers to hot dogs, if it is equal to the ratio of hamburgers to hot dogs for Richard. So we're going to remember order matters. So I'm going to write a ratio for Jade, and I'm going to write a ratio for Richard. So hamburgers comes first. So I'm going to use B for burgers and D for dogs. So for Jade, this is going to be 3/2. And for Richard, again, burgers comes before dogs, plus we want it to match Jade's. His is 9/6. Now, there's a couple of ways if we can decide if these match. We want them to be equal. Well, I know that 9/6 can be simplified by 3. 3 goes into 9 3 times, 3 goes into 6 2 times. So this does simplify to match Jade. I could also say that I know 3 times 3 is 9 and 2 times 3 is 6, which also matches Richard. So this is in fact a proportional situation because they do match. Okay? So all a proportional situation is 2 equal ratios. Okay? So yes, the ratios are equal. So it is proportional. Okay, so let's try another one. This time we're going to talk about pots and pans, and we've got the question, do Nancy and Christy have equal sets of pots and pans? So, is it proportional? So we're going to see if they're equal. So we know that Christy has 12 pots and 8 pans. Nancy has 10 pots and 6 pans. So again, we need to, I'm just going to write Christy. We're going to make a ratio for Christy. And again, pots comes before pans. So I've got 12 pots over 8 pans. And then we have Nancy over here. Again, she has 10 pots and 6 pans. So we can look at this and we can talk about what we did last time, and we can see, do they simplify to be the same? Well, I know that 12/8 simplifies by 4 to get 3/2. And I know that 10/6 simplifies by 2 to give me 5 over 3. And these do not simplify any further. And these are not equal, right? So they're not equal. So that means that this situation is not proportional. So we can say the ratios are not equal. So it is not proportional. Okay, so that means that Nancy and Christy do not have equal sets of pots and pans. Here's a third one. Farmer Jack and Farmer Jones, they have cows and chickens. So we're going to start with Farmer Jones has 16 cows and 12 chickens. Farmer Jack has 12 cows and 9 chickens. So we need to see, do they have equal amount of cows and chickens? So I'm going to write Jones, and he has, think of order, 16 cows and 12 chickens. And Farmer Jack has 12 cows and 9 chickens. So I know that 16 over 12 simplifies by 4 to get 4 over 3. And I know that 12 over 9 simplifies by 3 to get 4 over 3 also. So these are in fact equal, and we can write what we wrote on number 1. Yes, the ratios are equal, so it is proportional. I'm just going to write proportional over here. Okay? So that is how you decide if a situation is proportional. Now, what do we do with this information? This is very handy because sometimes we're missing a number. So we can use this information to find a missing value to make a proportion complete. So, we look, this is going to be number 4. And I'm going to tell you the ratio of ticks to fleas, that's kind of gross, on Laura's dog. Laura's dog needs a flea bath, I think, is 20:6. So remember we talked about the 3 ways to write a ratio. Using a colon is one way. So the question is, how many fleas would you expect to find on her cat if she has 40 ticks? Okay, so we're going to assume that the ratios are the same because they live in the same house. So we need to write a ratio for the dog, okay? The dog, think of the order, ticks and then fleas, and then so the first number is going to go with the ticks and the second number is going to go with the fleas. So we have 20 ticks over 60 fleas. The cat has 40 ticks. Well, if I put ticks on the top on the dog, I need to put ticks on the top for the cat. And remember, if it's a proportion, then these are equal. Now, there's lots of ways for you to solve this, okay? We can do a couple of things. The easiest, most 100% way that works every time is called cross multiplication. Okay, you might have heard of this called butterfly, right? So we're going to multiply diagonal. So we're going to say 60 times 40 equals 20 times something. Okay, and when we look at this, because if it's equal ratios, then the cross product should match. So we can multiply this 2400 equals 20 times something. Well, how do we know what times 20 is 2400? We need to divide. And I'm thinking you probably did this last year. 120 equals question mark. So the cat would have 120 fleas. Okay, that is one way. A second way you can do this is you can look for a pattern between the top and the bottom or going left to right. So if I look here from top to bottom, I know that 20 times 3 is 60. So just like in all things math, if we do something to one side, we have to do it to another. So I can say 40 times 3, which does happen to be 120. This is called a scale factor. It is a number that you can multiply both sides by to keep them equal. You can also do a scale factor not just vertically, but across. So I know that 20 times 2 is 40. So if I do 60 times 2, I would get 120. Okay? So there's lots of ways for you to do this. And I'm not going to tell you to do it just one way. I want you to choose the way that you like best. But the first way I showed you is the way that's going to work 100% of the time. Let's try one more, and then I'm going to have you do one by yourself. There are 5 pairs of smelly socks. Oh, gross. To 8 pairs of shoes. How many smelly socks would you, actually how many pairs, because it has pairs up here, how many pairs of smelly socks would you expect for 24 pairs of shoes? Okay, so again, we're making a prediction. We're going to make a proportion. So we need to look at our order. Socks, 5 pairs of socks to 8 pairs of shoes. 5 socks to 8 shoes. And then they give us 24 pairs of shoes. Well, if I put shoes on the bottom, I need to keep shoes on the bottom. It always needs to match. And the question here is how many socks? So we can, I'm going to show you all 3 ways. We can cross multiply 5 times 24 equals 8 times something. 5 times 24 is 120 is equal to 8 times something. So we need to divide by 8 because 8 times something equals 120. We got to do the opposite. 8 goes into 12 one time with 4 left over. So you could do the math over here if you wanted. 40 is 5. So 5 equals the pairs of socks. You can also do on this one, you can't do a vertical scale factor, but you can do one going across, because I know that 8 times 3 is 24, so I can do 5 times 3 is 15. Okay? This next one I want you to try, and then we'll talk about it in class. Cheryl shed 32 tears when she cut 2 onions. How many tears for 6 onions? All right, and we will talk about this in class. So, good luck.